Hello and good morning, friends. Welcome to the CC EduSec live lecture. Dear friends, with our ongoing series on organizational behavior, today we would be talking on motivation theories. We would be covering more and more theories in this session today, and for the discussion on the theories, we have once again with us in our studios Dr. Namita Rajput. Dr. Namita Rajput is Associate Professor in Department of Commerce, Sri Aurobindo College, University of Delhi. So let's welcome our guest, Dr. Namita Rajput, and let's try to motivate ourselves by understanding these theories. Hello ma'am, welcome to the EduSec lecture.
A very good morning, friend viewers. So today's lecture will be dedicated on motivation theories. In the last lecture, we discussed upon the basics of motivation, that what are the basic importance, concept, nature, etc. relating to motivation. So this present lecture will be dedicated completely on the various theories which are present in India and across the globe. So starting with my presentation on motivation, starting with a quote given by Mahatma Gandhi, wherever you go, you will be insignificant, but it is very important that you do it. So it's not very important that you always achieve success in life, but it is very important that you always in action. So motivation leads you towards the action. So starting with the conceptual framework of motivation, let us do the conceptual aspects of it. It is derived from the Latin word mover, which means to move. And of course, the process that accounts for an individual intensity, direction, and persistence of efforts towards attaining a goal. So as we have seen, there are three aspects, that is the intensity, direction, and persistence. So motivation is the process that accounts for an individual intensity, direction, and persistence of the efforts towards attaining a goal. So direction, there are so many ways, there are so many roads to achieve that success. But yes, motivation will always direct you towards the right direction. So direction relates to what an individual chooses to do when presented with a number of alternatives. Now, definitely, as a matter of fact, an individual has got so many, roads towards the success. But it is the pursuance of the individual, it is the intelligence and the rationality of the individual and the judgmental aspects that which road he chooses towards the success. He will weigh definitely the various alternatives which are present, and he will see that what are the best and what are the negative aspects of a particular alternative, and then of course he will choose. The second most important concept and the component of motivation is intensity. Intensity refers to the strength of response once the alternative is chosen. So definitely the first aspect is that you have to choose the direction, and second is the intensity. So intensity is basically that how, with what kind of strength you respond to a particular, the road towards the action. The third is the persistence. This is the most important component of the motivation. So let us see what it is. Persistence refers to the staying power of the behavior, or how long a person will continue to devote the efforts. It is definitely never give up. So if you have this kind of an attitude, that definitely you are persistent in your, or if you're having a persistence in your approach. Now there are the three basic components which we have discussed. So let us have a recap of all the three. The first is the effort, the second is the persistence, and the third is direction. Effort is basically concerns with the magnitude or the intensity of the employee's work, which is related to behavior. Persistence concerns the sustained efforts employee manifested in their work-related activities. And the third is the direction, that is the quality of an employee work, that is investment of sustained effort in a direction that benefits the employer. So definitely all the three aspects are most important for the motivation, and unless and until we have the efforts, we have the motivation with us, we have the persistence with us, nobody can achieve the road of success. So in the continuation, I'll tell you one story relating to a motivation aspect. Once upon a time, there were two brothers, and one was a drug addict and drunk who frequently beats up his family. The other one was a very successful businessman who was respected in society and had a wonderful family. Some people wanted to find out why two brothers from the same parents are brought up in a same way and are having a different aspects of life, although they were brought up in the same environment. So could be so different. The first was asked, how come you do what you do? And you are a drug addict, a drunk, and you beat your family. So what motivates you? The answer is, he said, my father. They asked, what about your father? They reply, my father was a drug addict, he was a drunken person, and definitely he also used to beat his family. What do you expect out of me? That is what he has seen, he is doing that. That is what is I am. they went to the other brother and who was also doing everything right and asked the same question from him. The answer was that how come you are doing the same thing in a right way? What are your source of motivation? So the guess was that my father, I was a little boy, when I used to see that the dad is drunk and he's doing all the wrong things in the family, I made up my mind that it is not what I wanted to be. And of course, both were deriving the strength and the motivation from the same source. But one was using a positive motivation and the other is using a negative motivation. So here in this story, there's a complete lesson which is in front of you, that motivation is derived from something which is called a desire or a need. The father was drunken and the two brothers were from the same father. So one was a positive person and the other was a negative person. So he saw the father was a drug addict. He used to beat his family. So his ideal was his father. So he continued to take the footsteps of his father. Whereas the other one was used to see the other side of it. He used to see the misery of the family, that my father is drug addict and the whole family is suffering. So he never did what his father did. So one is a positive motivation and the other is a negative motivation. So let us have a look on this slide. If an egg is broken by an outside force, the life ends. If an egg is broken by the inside force, the life begins. So this concept which I have shown in this slide gives you a great lesson, that if a person is trying to do something which he wants to do, that is, he has to inside transform himself, he has to direct himself on a particular road to achieve the success. So the great things happens only from inside, and if you definitely see that this is the success road, so people will follow the kind of footprints, but you have to really transform your mind, your mindset, your thought process. Only then you can achieve the success. So taking my presentation forward, let us now discuss the theories of motivation. So basically we have two categories. The one is a content theory and the other is a process theory. What is the content theory is all about? It is all about what motivates us. Whereas the process theory, the crux is on how does it motivates. So let us do this theory in detail. The content motivation theories is with the focus on the factors within a person, that is inside. As I said, the life begins from inside, all the great things happens from inside. So the content theory is all about what kind of transformation you have seen from within a person, what energizes the behavior, what directs the behavior, what sustains the behavior, and of course what kind of aspects lead you to stop the behavior. Whereas the content theory is all about the within factors, that is, what are the factors within us which motivates us, which energizes us, gives us a right direction, sustains our behavior and stop doing a wrong behavior. Now coming on to the other aspect, that is the process motivation theories. The theories that describes and analyze how behavior is analyzed, directed, sustained and stops. So this is how behavior is changed, whereas the content theories centers around within the factors of an individual. So these are primarily the two categories of the theories which are most important in India as well as across the globe. So we'll discuss these theories one by one. So let us first start with the need theory of motivation. As the name suggests, it is the need, it is the desire which will actually motivate an individual. Motivation theories that specifies the kind of needs people have and the conditions under which they are motivated to satisfy these needs in a way that contributes to the performance. Like for example, if I have to earn food, I have to work. So earning food is most important, and to earn that food we have to earn the money, because no lunch is free and to direct everything you need money. So to have and fulfill our desires, we have to do a particular direction which is directed towards the same focus. Now the basic idea behind the need theory is what? The individual have the needs, when unsatisfied, will result in motivation. Definitely, this is a very important aspect. A satisfied need will never motivate you. Anything which you have got in a platter will not at all motivate you because you've already achieved that. The motivation comes from an unfulfilled desire, unfulfilled need. So this is most important aspect which we have to look upon. That is the basic idea behind the need theory is all about the unsatisfied need. That is the one thing which an individual has to understand, and definitely it is the major aspect that is motivating the individual. Now coming on to the need theories, there are n number of theories, but we'll discuss a few of them which are most vital and pertinent as far as the global aspects are concerned. The first is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The second is Hertzberg two-factor theory, that is the motivation hygiene theory. The third is Alderfer ERG theory, and the last is the Macklin's theory of needs. So these are the four important types of the needs which we'll discuss one by one. So let us now first discuss about the Maslow's need theory hierarchy. So as the name suggests, Maslow is a very important person who has given a very important theory of needs, that is the need hierarchy theory. It actually gives you a pyramid of needs. On the bottom of it, we have the physiological need. Coming on to that is we move on to the safety needs, and after we are physiologically safe, safety needs are complete, then we move on to the belongingness needs, esteem needs, and of course the self-actualization needs. So what we'll do is we'll do these needs one by one. So this particular theory centers around the hierarchy of needs. That is, first the bottom needs are satisfied. Coming on to the satisfaction of the bottom needs, we move on to the higher needs. And of course, once these needs are fulfilled, then we move on to the last stage of this theory, that is the self-actualization needs. So starting with the Maslow need hierarchy theory, the first is the physiological needs. The physiological needs centers around the food, clothing, shelter, and other bodily needs. Coming on to this, that is, once we have the basic amenities in life, we have the food with us, we have the shelter with us, we have all the, the bodily needs which are most important to survive and sustain in this world. If they are fulfilled, then we move on to the safety needs, because to have the safety is most important as far as the individual is concerned. It includes the security and the problem of the physical and emotional harm, and people want to be, safe in aspects of every way, whether it is a physical aspect or it is a mental aspect. Now coming on to, once the physiological needs are complete and fulfilled, the safety needs are fulfilled, then an individual talks about and thinks about the social needs. The social needs is all about the affliction, belongingness, acceptance, friendship, etc. Because it is said that an individual is a social animal and you need the society at one point or the other. And of course, nothing is complete without a society. We are living in a society, so we want all these things. We want friends, we want peer groups, we want people to applaud us, we want people to criticize us in terms of improving our actions. Now, once these three needs are complete and fulfilled, we come on to the esteem needs. Esteem needs are also called as the ego needs. So, this includes the internal esteem factors such as self-respect, autonomy, achievements, external esteem factors like status, recognition, and attention. So, once it is like the first factor which we discussed was the physiological needs, then we came on to the safety needs, then of course the social needs, and then of course we will think about the esteem needs. So esteem needs are most important as far as the individual is concerned, because this is basically centering around the recognition, the status which you get in a society, and which is of course most important. And the last is the self-actualization needs. The self-actualization need is the drive to become what one is capable of becoming. That is, it includes the growth, it includes the achieving one's potential, and of course the self-fulfillment aspect. Now coming on to the basic aspects of it, that is what the organizations can do as far as these needs are concerned. So starting from the bottom of the pyramid, we'll start with the physiological needs. The physiological needs are offered basically adequate ventilation, heat, water, and of course the basic pay. If these needs are satisfied, I mean, this needs we are talking about from the organization point of view, from the corporate point of view. That is, an individual who's working in an organization would always think about that whether the adequate ventilation is there, the working conditions are good, he's getting the basic pay very nicely, and of course, the water and the humid aspects, the heat aspects, the overall temperament and the temperature of the organization workplace is complete as far as and sustainable as far as the organization is concerned. So this we will categorize in the physiological needs from the organization point of view. Now coming on to the second hierarchy need, that is safety needs. So what does the organization can do about it? It can offer a safe working conditions, it can give you a job security, it gives you the health and the retirement benefits. So if you see these aspects, as I told you in the beginning, that the safety needs is all about the physical aspects also and the mental aspects also. So if you have this fear in mind that you can be shunted out any time from the organization, you'll never be happy. Why? Because you will always have this kind of a tension that my job is in under danger and I have to leave this organization anytime when I'm asked to do that. So these kind of fear factors will never allow an individual to flourish, to thrive, to show his best level, because he's always occupied and the mind is always preoccupied with different kind of fears which are not at all good from the performance point of view. So if the organization is able to offer these kind of benefits to the individual, it is of course a very boon to them. It's a good aspects to them, and of course if given these conditions, he can grow to the maximum possible extent. So as far as the organizations are concerned, the physiological needs can also be fulfilled, and of course the safety needs can also be fulfilled, which can definitely fulfill the physical as well as the mental outset of an individual. Now coming on to the belongingness needs, that is the social needs. Here we'll talk about what organizations can do as far as the belongingness needs are concerned, and the other aspects we also call it as a social need. So it can offer the interaction with others, it can participate in the work group, it can give a good relationship with the superiors. So as far as the belongingness needs are concerned, definitely you feel very good when you're in a society, when you're with friends. So organization can give you a very congenial and a friendly atmosphere where the social needs of an individual can be satisfied. So there should not be any kind of a compromise as far as giving them some kind of congenial and friendly atmosphere is concerned, because this gives a very positive spillover onto the minds of an individual to show the best possible productive levels of an individual. So coming on to this, the esteem needs, what organizations can do. I mean, these aspects are very important because we are discussing the organization behavior, and the motivation theories are also discussed from the organization point of view. So that is why we are giving a center and a nucleus on how these needs can be satisfied at an individual level and what organizations can do as far as the different needs are concerned. So now coming on to the esteem needs, what organizations can do, it can always give them the recognition, the status and the merit pay. Now these are the most important aspect if your work is being applauded, if you are being recognized, if your name is there, the fame is there, it gives again a very positive boost to an individual. He will always try to do more and more. So you can convert the attitude of an individual if you are offering these kind of benefits to him with a rise in the pay scales, giving many kind of recognition, awards and honors to an individual, and of course giving them a better status. So these organizations can do and fulfill the esteem needs, which are again most important from the organization point of view. Now coming on to the last need, that is the self-actualization need. This is perhaps the most important thing which the organizations can take care and organizations can fulfill by giving them creativity at its best, giving them the promotions, giving an employee a complete control over his job. So this is a kind of a domain where the independence is given to an individual. He can apply his own brains, he can apply his own creativity to fulfill the objectives. Nobody is going to interfere in them, and of course people will start trusting an individual that whatever pedagogies, whatever methods, whatever ways an individual can adopt, definitely a same kind of confidence and the trust will be entrusted in the individual. So this is going to give them a big kick, and definitely the people will again put their heart and soul into it to make the organizational objective achieved and to achieve the success as far as possible. Now coming on to the relevance of this Maslow need hierarchy theory for the managers. To discuss the implications, to discuss the organization point of view is very important, because this paper is all about the organization theory. So we have to, discuss the relevance, the rational, the judgmental aspects of the management theories, and what lessons do the managers learn. So here we are discussing the relevance of the Maslow theory for the managers. The first, effective managers can anticipate emerging needs based on individual need profile and provide opportunities to fulfill. And of course, the esteem level of needs satisfied by the job and recognition provides the managers with the greatest opportunity to motivate for a better performance. So we have seen the hierarchy of the theories and how and what the organizations can do as far as the fulfilling of these hierarchy objectives are concerned. Of course, it is a great lesson for the managers that they can always motivate the workforce. And of course, the end and eventualities are rise in productivity levels, of course, rise in the profitability levels. Then, of course, giving them, the great kind of contribution and the production is concerned. So everything and every way, the success can be achieved taking care of the Maslow need hierarchy theory and as far as the organizational objectives are concerned. Now the options are, as far as the organizational relevance is concerned, you can always give them the financial incentives, you can give the employee recognition. As far as the financial incentives are concerned, you can give them the stock options, you can give a share in the profit, you can raise their wage rates, and you can of course give them the bonus. Now coming on to the employee recognition, how the employee can be recognized. The first is to celebrate employee of the month, that is to give them the due regards as far as the performance of an individual is concerned, and giving and applauding and awarding that individual that yes, this is the man of the month, or this is the performer of the year award, or something like that, because this is going to again give them a boost as far as achieving the objectives are concerned. Now you can always display the name on the notice board of the organization that yes, these are the performers. So this is not going to increase their own performance levels of the employees, as well as the other employees are also motivated, because not giving them the awards and the honors, but also giving them some kind of a monetary benefit, profit sharing. So everyone will be motivated to stay there as far as and rise to a next level, because they know that if they are going to put in their best, not only the productivity of the organization is increased, but it's a win-win situation for them also. It gives them the career advancement in terms of the rise in the wage rates, etc. And of course, it is going to distribute the batches for the different recognitions. It does not cost much. Giving awards and honors, putting the name, these are the strategic concerns, and you must understand it. You're playing with the minds of the people, you are playing with the psyche of the people. So all these things are going to affect the minds of an individual definitely in a very positive way. Now coming on to the second theory of Maslow need hierarchy theory, that is the Herzberg two-factor theory. Now the two-factor theory we talk about, there are two views, the traditional and the modern. The traditional view is all about the satisfaction and dissatisfaction, which is not at all accepted in the present world, whereas the Herzberg view is most important and dynamic. We talk about the motivators and we talk about the hygiene factors. When you talk about the motivators, we have two aspects, satisfaction and no satisfaction, and the hygiene factors are no satisfaction and dissatisfaction. The hygiene factors necessarily, but not sufficiently for healthy adjustments, and the extrinsic factors like company policy, unhappy relationship, and the poor interpersonal relationship and poor working conditions. Whereas the motivators are most important, that is the achievement, success, challenge, responsibility, and advancement. So you have to, really work upon the motivators and as far as decrease the dissatisfiers, as far as the Herzberg theory of motivation is concerned. Thank you so much. Good morning, friends. So we'll talk about the different Alfred's ERG theory of motivation in this part of my lecture. So this is a Clayton-Alvord ERG theory. Let us have a look on this slide. The first is the existence needs, which is again followed by relatedness needs and of course the growth needs. So the arrow, straight arrow refers to the satisfaction. The other arrow is relating to progression. The dotted arrow relates to frustration, and the last is the regression. So Alford ERG theory is all about existence, relatedness, growth, etc. So let us do this theory in detail. The first aspect is existence. The concern with the providing the basic material existence and requirement. The relatedness is all about desire for maintaining important interpersonal relationships, and the last is the growth, that is the intrinsic desire for the personal development. So if you see this particular cartoon which I have shown in this slide, actually my hierarchy of needs is quite simple. It is money, money and money. So this is a very important slide which tantamounts that everybody eventually has only one need, that is rise in the wage rates. So this is one of the driving factors, driving needs which an individual can have, which can actually motivate him to the road of success and to achieve the objectives of the organization. Now the next theory is the McClelland theory of needs. It is given by the David McClelland. Now, a need theory of motivation that outlines the conditions under which the certain needs results in a particular pattern of motivation. So, this particular theory of McClelland theory of need centers around what? The need theory of motivation that outlines the conditions under which certain needs results in a particular patterns of motivation. So, let us see these patterns very importantly. The first is the performance results. The second is the need for achievement. The third is the need for affliction, and the last is the need for power. So you have to understand that what particular type of need is there and what is going to eventually result into. So the first is the performance results, that is your need is higher definitely because your objective is that you are able to achieve the needs of that order. So must win at any cost, must be on the top and receive the credit. So this is the need for achievement. That is, in any case, you want to achieve the success in life, and of course, you want to achieve this at any cost. So for this performance results, you need which level of needs? You need a higher level of needs in this case. And of course, nobody will be able to achieve this unless and until you have the higher order needs. The next is your need for affliction. That is, it demands the blind loyalty and of course the harmony. It does not tolerate any kind of disagreement. So you have to understand as a matter of fact, that is, if you have a need for affliction, you cannot accept the disagreement of any order and at any level. Of course, for this also you need the higher level needs. The next is the need for power. Many of the individuals in the organizations, they have a lust for power, that they want to achieve the top positions, the positions of directors, the position of CEOs, etc. So if you desire to have a control on everyone and everybody and on every minor and the trivial issue for the organization, definitely you have to have again a higher order needs, and it exaggerates over the position and the resources. So these are the higher order needs, and of course every individual is different from one another. Some people have a desire for money, some people have a desire for position, some people have a desire for affliction, and some people have a desire for achievement. They always want to achieve and they always want to be the achiever. So for each category of an individual, we have a different level of needs, of course. When we order them, they are all higher order needs, and of course eventually everyone wants the power of affliction, the power of money, the power of achievement, and the power of the need of the power. All these kind of needs, they need a higher order needs. And of course, some people are very easygoing persons. They never want to achieve anything. They are very happy in the positions they are. They always want to be in their comfort zones. And of course, for these kind of people, the needs are required to fulfill them is very easy. And of course, the level of needs which is required to fulfill this is a lower order needs. Because they always, they do not believe their, mindsets, they do not believe their personality. And of course, they have a fear factor in mind that they cannot achieve. So cannot achieve attitude puts them under the comfort zone. They will not even try to achieve that level. And of course, it remains aloof, it maintains a social distance, and of course, the people who have a need for affliction, but the need of affliction is of lower order, they don't want to mix up in the society and they always maintain a safe distance. They do not want to be a part of the limelight of the organization, they always take a back seat and a back position because they don't want to achieve that higher order need. So they are always kind of a hide and seek behavior. They always want to hide somewhere round the corner of an organization. Some people, they have a need for a power but the need of that power is very less. So what they do is they want to minimize owns, positions and the power. They do not want to, have that kind of an attitude that they say and they think that they cannot lead the organization. So taking care of the Mackland's theory of needs. This is a very, dynamic theory of motivation, and it always talks about the different and the varied level of needs and what kind of varied level of needs where an individual has and what kind of performance level they can achieve. Now, let us do this theory in further detail. Some people have a need for achievement, the drive to excel, to achieve in relation to a set of standards, to strive to succeed. So there is some people who have a need for affliction, that is a desire for friendly and a close interpersonal relationships. The next is a need for power. The need to make others behave in a way that they would not have behaved otherwise is the crux of this aspect. So with this we end the Mackland theory of needs. So now I want to have a comparison of all the content theories which we have discussed till now. So the first is the Maslow, the second is the Hertzberg two-factor theory, the third is the Albrecht's theory, and the last is the Mackland theory. Now as far as the Maslow need hierarchy theory is concerned, we have already seen that we have a hierarchy of need. First, the bottom needs are satisfied, and as and when one need is satisfied, the other comes into play. And of course, no need can bypass this kind of a pyramid which has been defined by Maslow. So to name it, first we have the physiological, next we have the safety and security, the third is the belongingness, social and love, fourth is the esteem needs, and the last is the self-actualization needs. So this theory is centering around the higher order needs and the basic needs. So when you talk about the bottom two needs, that is the physiological needs and the safety needs, they come for basic needs. So once our basic needs are satisfied, only then we can think about socializing, having a kind of a self-ego and talking about the status and of course the self-actualization stage. So out of these five, the two are basic order and the next three are the high order needs. So this is all about the Maslow theory. Now we discuss the Hertzberg two-factor theory. There are two factors. The first is the hygiene factors and the other are the motivators, which we have discussed in the earlier part of my lecture. That is, what are the hygiene factors? Hygiene factors are all about the working conditions, the job security. So when you talk about the job security and the working conditions, we call it as the hygiene factors. Hygiene factors in a way are the basic needs. And of course, if they are not present, the individual will not stay in that organization. So once the hygiene factors are there, these are the kind of, not kind of a motivators, but they are the hygiene factors, the presence of which is mandatory for an individual to stay in an organization. So once these needs are satisfied and all the hygiene factors are present, then we move on to the motivators. The motivators is all about recognition, achievement, responsibility, and growth. So these tantamounts to the higher order needs, and of course, once the hygiene factors are there, then we move on to the higher order needs, that is the motivators. In fact, the motivators are also important and the hygiene factors are most important. Hygiene factors, if they are not there, the organization people will not stay and there will be a heavy labor turnover. Once these hygiene factors are present, then we think about, climbing the stairs of success, which comes through motivators. The motivators is all about giving them a boost, promotion, recognition, awards and honors, applauding their work, etc. So next, coming on to the Albrecht need theory, and it's also a part of the content theory of motivation. The first we talk about the existence, next we talk about the relatedness, and finally we talk about the growth. So this is also again the hierarchy in a way, and of course we first be present and exist in that world. Once we are existing in that world, we are able to sustain and grow in that organization. Then we talk about the related factors and the growth factors, of course. And then coming on to the last theory which we discussed, that is the Mackland need hierarchy theory. Mackland different patterns of need theory. So of course it depends upon the different needs which an individual has. Some people have a lust for money, so will always strive to attain that higher positions. Some people are having a the lust for social power, so they will put in their best to have a best interactions and the interpersonal relationship in the organization, so on and so forth. So some people have a need for reflection, some people have a need for power, and some people have a need for achievement. So people have different needs, and as per we have a different aspects. So the most important part of my lecture today is coming on to after discussing the various theories of motivation. So let us now discuss the managerial implications of the need theories which we have completed right now. The first is that we should appreciate the diversity. Managers must be adept of evaluating the needs of an individual employee and offering the incentives or goals that corresponds to their own needs. The second is we must appreciate intrinsic motivation. That is, survival in the organization requires creativity, innovation behavior by organizational members. So we must give them a free hand, we must give them the innovative skills, we must give them a complete independence so that they can show the creativity at its best, and of course all these things are going to applaud the individual. And of course this will also be a part of the intrinsic motivation, so they will have a feel good factor in terms of that they are given the independence and they can always do and achieve anything in their life on their own. There is no commitment, no clutches around them, and they are freely able to move in that organization, put in their own pedagogies, put in their own efforts, putting their own ways in which they can achieve the organizational objectives. So the first implication is that the people are diverse, and owing to this diversity, people will have different kind of needs. So we must understand each one of them. We must understand the needs of each individual, and eventually you'll be able to appreciate the diversity because everyone is different. Not our 5 fingers are the same. Then coming on to the intrinsic motivation, and intrinsic motivation is the motivation which comes from within. So within motivation is coming because of the independence, creativity, and a loose hand which is there, and not the clutches around the employee workforce. As far as the independence is concerned, he should be given a complete independence in his way of working. Now there are certain limitations of the content theories. Let us have a discussion on this. Each of these theory is conceptually flawed and culturally bound to individuals of Western culture. The theories do not provide leaders with a clear, unambiguous means of predicting specific follower behavior to satisfy a particular need. Empirical findings also contradict their assumptions that the same needs motivate all individuals regardless of the fact of sex or ethnicity. So this is a very important aspect of the content theory, because unless and until we have limitations of each theory, the theories will never be revised. So here there is a problem that all the content theories are basically inflicted and tilted towards the Western culture, which is definitely not suiting the Indian culture, number one. Number two is that there is no clear-cut vision as far as how the needs would be satisfied. So there is an ambiguity all around. There is a confusion all around. There's no crystal clear aspects and the pattern behaviors of the needs, and how, if they are fulfilled, what is going to be there. And of course, last but not the least, the main important limitation of the Mackland and the content theories of the motivation is that each individual is different, so we cannot have a common thing for them, or we cannot sew all the people in one thread. Everyone needs a separate aspect. Every need is different. Every individual is different. Because we have different cultures, we have multi-ethnicity as far as the individuals are concerned in a corporate world, global corporate world. We have gender diversity, we have age diversity, we have cultural diversity. So keeping into consideration the diversity at its best, we cannot have one solution for all. Now the second aspect of the motivation is the process theory. That is, motivation theories that specifies the detail how motivation occurs. In the earlier part, we discussed the within factors. That is, what are the factors which leads to the motivation? That was the content theory. The process theory is centering around what are the factors, how the motivation occurs. So let us discuss these theories one by one. The first is the goal setting theory. The second is the equity theory. And the third is the expectancy theory. The first theory which we'll discuss in the process theory is the goal setting theory. The goal setting theory is the process of improving the performance with objectives, deadlines, or quality standards. The second is a general goal setting model. Properly conceived goals trigger a motivational process that improves the performance. So as far as the goal setting theory is concerned, we set the goals, we set the deadlines, we motivate people that this is the target which we have to achieve, and we keep pampering them, explaining them that this is the deadlines, these are the ends where we have to go, these are the objectives which we have to achieve. So definitely if we have a clear-cut, concise and conceived goals, it is going to be a positive step as far as the objectives of the organization are concerned, and this goal setting theory is a part of the process theory, that is what motivates us. Now there are certain assumptions of this goal setting theory. Let us discuss one by one. The first is the challenging goals, that is providing the higher performance than less challenging goals. The second is specific challenging goals produce the higher performance than no goals or vague or general goals. Do your best. The third is a feedback on goal attainment, that is combined with a goal setting with which will produce the higher performance. And the next is the follower participation in goal setting produces the higher achievements. So it is very important and to discuss the assumptions. The first assumption is, as we said, that the goal setting is very challenging in nature. Then of course to attain the specific goals is even more challenging in nature, followed by a feedback mechanism which will always give you the insight of how the goals are being achieved, what are the problems, what are the insights of it. And of course, the follower participation is also being sought to make this theory a success. Now let us discuss the model. A model of how goals can improve the performance. The goals needs to be very specific, difficult, participatory set. It leads to goals motivated by direction, encouraging persistence, fostering goal achievements, strategies, etc. So this is definitely going to improve the performance, and of course there has to be a positive feedback mechanism. Like when we teach in the class, we ask the students, are you able to follow it? If not, then what are the doubts? We try to explain and resolve those problems. So that the effective method is there of teaching. Similarly, when all the goals are set, you try and put all the efforts to achieve those goals. If you are unable to do that, definitely a very good important feedback mechanism is most important. This is going to make the achievement process a success. So coming on to the personal ownership of challenging goals, the first is the characteristics of effective goals. Specificity makes goals measurable. Difficulty makes goals challenging. Participation gives a personal ownership of the goals. And how do goals actually motivate? The goals are exercised in a very selective perception. Goals encourage efforts. Goals encourage persistent efforts, and goals are fostering the creation of strategies and the action plans. So coming on to the managerial implications of the goal setting theory, the first is to set specific and challenging goals, to provide ongoing feedback so that the individuals can compare their performance with the goal. So with this we come on to the second theory of motivation of the process theory. This is an equity theory. So you can see a beam balance, that is the inputs and the outcomes. So there has to be a judicious balance between the two. This theory, an individual compares their job input and output with those of others and then respond to eliminate any inequities. So as a matter of fact, this tries to maintain an equilibrium of the input and the output. So if you are able to have that, you are able to discuss the terms, that is comparison, what is an input, what is an output. So it is first the person, that is whosoever is implying the process. The second is a comparative efforts which the individuals are putting. The third is the input, that is the kind of the effort, experience and education an individual is having. And the last is the output. The output is definitely referring to the outputs of salary levels, recognition, etc. So this is a 4 referent comparisons: the self inside, self outside, other inside and other outside. So we'll discuss them one by one. The first is the self inside. An employee experiences a very different position inside his current situation. An employee experiences a position of outside his current organization. So an individual have his own self inside and a self outside. The other is the other inside, an individual inside the employee organization, and the other employee which is outside an organization. So whatever we are talking in this 4 referent comparisons, which is most important to take. So what is the consequences of applying the equity into it? The first is a perceived equity, what you think and what you feel, the thought process. It leads to the satisfaction because everything is equal and leads to the motivation. This is the outcome. So the motivation to maintain the outcome to input ratio is most important because any kind of an imbalance is not going to motivate them but is going to dissuade them. So if there are inequalities all around in the organization, it is going to, have a very negative feelings amongst the people like anger, disgrace, tension, motivation to change, motivation, then of course a guilt and a complete dissatisfaction. So these are the consequences of the part of the inequalities in the organization. Now how to restore the equity is most important. That is, change the inputs, change the outputs, distort the perception, what they have, distort the perception of others if they have wrong perception, changing the reference person and leave the field. So these are the alternatives to restore equity, and as a matter of fact, it is very important to also do this because inequalities and inequities can lead to disasters and it can make your organization a Titanic. So what are the managerial implications as far as the equity theory is concerned? The first is perceived underpayment will have a variety of negative motivational consequences for the organization. And of course, attempting to solve the organizational problems through overpayment might not have the intended motivational effect. So, this is a very important aspect. We have already discussed two types of process theory. The last theory which we are going to discuss is the expectancy theory. The strength of tendency to act in a certain way depends on the strength of an expectation that an act will be followed by a given outcome to the individual. Now, as far as the expectancy theory is concerned, let us have a flow chart of this. The first is the individual efforts, followed by individual performance, followed by organizational rewards and the personal goals. So, effort-performance relationship is expectancy. The performance-reward relationship is instrumental, and performance-reward personal goal is a valency. So, as a matter of fact, all these expectancy theory variants have to be, studied in depth and applied in depth. So, the expectancy is that I will try, I will succeed. The instrumentality is if I succeed, what are the consequences? And the last is the valency, that is how do I feel about the consequences. So, this is a model, expectancy, instrumental and the valency. This is equal to the force, and this force is called as a motivation level. So, as far as the motivation theories in the organization is concerned, we must motivate our employees, we must applaud them, we must recognize them, we must have the use of goals. We should allow the employees to participate in the decision making so that we have a participatory approach. We should definitely link the performance with the rewards, because this is a biggest kind of motivation which we can ever think about, and there are so many empirical studies to this effect that if you give them some kind of a monetary benefit, everyone would be happy to work and they will be motivated to the best extent. And definitely check for the equitance, check for equity, etc. Because having and incorporating the equity is most important from the organizational point of view. And as a matter of fact, you must apply these things to the organization level. You must reward the employees, employee involvement, alternative work arrangements, the job characteristics model, have to be applied to make the organization motivation a big success. So, you should give a lot of job variety to them, like skill variety, task significance, autonomy and a feedback. And these are the guidelines for enriching a job. That is, you must involve them, you should enhance their variety of skills, the task, etc. Give them some kind of an autonomy so that they can work the best, work towards the interpersonal relationships. There should be an open feedback mechanism so that all the problems can be resolved, etc. And definitely if you give them some kind of flexibility in their job work, job sharing and telecommuting, this is definitely going to give them a good mileage. And you should give them a quality circle, give them some kind of rewards in terms of rising their pay scales or giving them the employee stock options, etc. Because, giving these kind of gain sharing, profit sharing will always impact the minds of the people in a very positive way. So I think everyone has understood about the motivation theories and its application in the organization. Thank you so much.
With this note, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much for motivating us through the lecture. Dear friends, if you want to give your feedback for this particular lecture, then do write to us at info.cc@nic.in. We would be meeting again soon. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again.